everybody, welcome to another edition of NCW, also known as New Comic Wednesday. If you guys haven't been with us before, we chat for a few minutes every Wednesday about Zenescope's newest releases. If you don't know who I am your NCW host, Amber. And today, I'm assuming that we have a bell and we have a baseball because of the Phillies that won last night. I don't know how I feel about this, but I know that we're a Philadelphia-based company, so I will be semi-optimistic about it. But I don't know, Casey's so fast to move on from Steve Nash mutually parting ways yesterday, and I haven't moved on from that, so I'm still in mourning. This is my little mourning bow right here. But yes, today NCW will technically have two releases that we'll be talking about, but really focused on one specifically today. But again, if you're joining us for the very first time, you're going to want to make sure that you push that notification bell and you subscribe to our YouTube channel. So you never miss an NCW, so you never miss a Coffee with Casey and Noah, so you never miss a VCon, a movie club, or maybe the future show that we joked about, sports with Zenescope. I don't have a good title for that yet. If you have title ideas, throw that in the chat. But basically, it'll just be me and Jason fighting on screen and disagreeing for like 2 hours, and Casey doing some sort of commentating in the background, and David Wall gambling and sharing the spread bets on every single thing because he bets on everything. But again, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss anything, including our latest Everything Zen, our podcast, where we drop latest episodes with awesome guests. Also, make sure that you like this, you comment on it, you share it, you react to it, whatever, so other people can find out about Zenescope's newest releases. And where to find Zenescope's newest releases, you'll head to Zenescope.com, press new releases, and it will show you everything that we have today as well as past releases. If you're looking for a digital version, you're going to want to head to Comixology, or if you're looking to support your local comic shop, you can buy there. And if they don't have us, make sure that you ask for us, and you can start a subscription with many of our ongoing stories. So today, like I mentioned, we have two releases, but we're really going to dive into the main one. And I just noticed that today's hardcover release kind of brings up something funny that we've been ongoing talking about. So I guess I'll bring that up again. But again, today we are talking about Oz, Return of the Wicked Witch #1. It is $5.99 in our web store, has 4 incredible covers, and is written by our own editor-in-chief, David Wall, who is the realest one out there, as I just gave him a 12-minute heads up that he will be on this show, and he agreed to come on. So, Casey, as always, will you pop up all of the covers, and everybody in the comments, make sure that you tell me what your favorite cover is of this week's lovely new release. And we got some crazy good covers here. Damn, like 4 very, very, very solid covers. So make sure you tell me which one is your favorite. Meanwhile, I'll read the synopsis. In a time before the Emerald City, a wicked witch of the north ruled all of Oz. Banished to the southern lands many eons ago and kept at bay by ancient magics far beyond her control, she languished. Now, with the witch's exile finally coming to an end, Dorothy and her friends will witness the return of the true Wicked Witch to the marvelous land of Oz. 40 pages. Again, here are the 4 wonderful artists. You can see Dorothy on all of these covers, except for maybe this last cover, which we'll dive a little bit more talking about the Wicked Witch and other characters in this storyline. So, without further ado, I will be bringing on our own editor-in-chief, the gambling machine of the universe, David. Wow, look at him shaking his head in the background.
I'm willing to bet on everything. I don't actually bet on everything.
That's true. Okay, I like that. However, let's talk a little bit. So this week, I don't know if I told you, I'm a part of a margins pool. A margins pool is where you, it's like a survivor pool, except if you get someone wrong, you're not eliminated. You just don't get any points. But every week, you're allowed to pick one team. You're only allowed to pick that one team every single week. And so you want to pick the game where the team will win by the most points.
Oh, okay. So like you can pick the Chiefs every week or Buffalo, and but you can only pick the team once?
You can only pick them once. So in the beginning, it's easy because you have all these good teams to pick from. But at the end, you're like, who will win this game between the Texans and the Colts, and who will win by a large margin of it?
Right, like Detroit blowing out New England or whatever that game was. Like Detroit won by a lot at the beginning of the year. But
let's talk about some of the wrong picks I picked this year. Number 1, I picked the Chiefs' only loss, which was the Chiefs versus the Colts, and they lost to the Colts, and I was very mad about that. And I picked the Bucks versus the Steelers, which they lost to the Steelers. And this week, I am doing a crazy pick. And so you tell me if you think it's a good or bad pick, but I am unfortunately picking the Eagles to beat the Texans tomorrow and to win by a lot because I need a lot of points. I'm currently like 11th in my margins pool.
They're playing in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's one of those used to be like a thing, like on Thursday night, the visiting team was like often like trouble, but then Baltimore just like did really well as a visiting team last week on Thursday night. So yeah, I think that's, although Houston, I think that's a safe bet. The
I'd
only
like to
thing
think
is,
so
the only
too.
thing is if it's a letdown after the Steeler game, because I'm sure they really wanted to beat the Steelers. But I think it's safe. We'll see.
Well, if the Eagles lose next week or tomorrow, then A, I'm never bidding on Philadelphia ever again. And also B, I'm never betting on Philadelphia ever again. So everybody hold me to this, that's what's going on. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about Return of the Wicked Witch. So,
Not Steve Nash. All right.
And we'll talk about, God, are you bummed about the Steve Nash news? Were you equally as sad as I was?
I wasn't. I mean, it's better for him that he's out. So I think I'm happy for him that he doesn't have to deal with that anymore. But yeah, it's kind of annoying. But it's not like it's his fault.
DM'd him on Instagram. He's never going to answer, but I DM'd him on Instagram, wrote this like long thing being like, I'm so sorry. There are better days ahead. So he knows that out there's one fan that really cares about it.
Right. I think it's better for him to get out of there. It wasn't like it was going to improve. So.
No, that whole environment's very bizarre. But anyway, Return of the Wicked Witch. Right. So Oz is a very popular storyline here at Zenescope. And fans have asked me in the past, and I guess this is a good question, why is it that we only really do one storyline of Oz every year? Like, what if it's such a popular entity and it's like one of the things that people love? Why is it that we only do an annual?
I think this time we're doing a miniseries. So
yes, I did know that.
Didn't to expand annual, it.
So yes,
no, I agree with you. I didn't because that was before my time. It sort of like became, there's a Wonderland story and there's an Oz story and Neverland, gets like something every once in a while. But I think it's because we've just been focusing on the Grimm universe so much. And there's just like a limited bandwidth to do other things, but we're actually working on that right now to improve that. And Oz probably will be the first one that'll start getting more.
Cool. So this was essentially, I saw it wasn't an annual, but it feels like an annual. So is this the kickoff of us getting more Oz?
Yes.
I hope. Also, this is Return of the Wicked Witch #1. How many numbers are there in the storyline?
Well, there's a 3-issue. It's a 3-issue miniseries. So this is just issue 1 of 3. So yeah, so I think we'll be doing more too, like coming up.
What are other characters?
We had the idea that we were doing like sorry, interrupt you. That we had, like,
we're bad at this. We are so out of practice right now.
So we had like different miniseries, so we're going to focus more on some of these like other worlds like in the miniseries.
So who are going to be the core characters of Oz in this miniseries specifically, besides the Wicked Witch and obviously Dorothy?
So the Wicked Witch is basically like the cool thing about Oz to me is that well, let me answer your question. We finished the last storyline with Dorothy. She was the Queen of Oz basically. But then her dad returns in the last book. So he kind of takes over as the king again in the Emerald City. And Dorothy is free to roam, free to just like to be more of a freelancer, and kind of explore Oz, which is something that we haven't been able to do much of. So her and the Tin Man is still out there. Allegedly dead, I believe. Dave could correct me on that. So it's basically Dorothy, the Scarecrow, Bartleby, Thorn, the lion, and Toto. The 4 of them are the team, and Glinda is not really connected to them. I mean, she's connected to them because they work together, so they end up being together on this. But she's not really part of the team. But they end up on the same side because Glinda is the Good Witch of the North, and the woman who they encounter, who is named Mombi, is the original Wicked Witch of the North.
Noted. Okay.
And that's in the lore, because that's something I like about Oz. We go back to the lore, and and find cool stuff from the original Oz storyline, and then bring it back to the world.
So this past weekend, when I was flying places, I downloaded Shudder has this ongoing series called Cursed Films. Season 1 was fantastic. It's all about films that have curses. So like popular ones like Poltergeist, The Crow, obviously cast members that died on set. And the first movie that they had on there was The Wizard of Oz.
Really?
And the curses behind The Wizard of Oz. And I'll be honest, it was kind of a letdown because usually the storylines are much creepier. Like Rosemary's Baby has a lot of like creepiness, etc., that happened behind the scenes. But I'm wondering if you guys will ever use any of that into the storyline of Oz.
I might check that out. I didn't really know much about it. I will. It sounds like it could be cool to use.
Yeah, there's like a huge following of people who like believe all these curses and believe all these things that happened along like the set of The Wizard of Oz. So
really
worth seeing.
I didn't know about that one. Did you see the movie Hellbender? Is that what it's called? Wait, is it Hellbender? Hellbinder?
Hellraiser?
No, not Hellraiser. No, there's another movie.
Did you see the new Hellraiser? So good. So
really?
Good.
There's another movie on Shudder called Hell something.
Well, I'll look it up. I have not seen it.
No, because I read it's supposed to be really good. I went totally off track, but yeah, I think we could check out the curses. That sounds cool.
If you want a good Shudder movie, you should watch The Watcher, not the Netflix series that just came out with all the cast. The Watcher with the girl from It Follows, amazing. I watched that 2 nights ago. Amazing, fantastic.
All right, I'll check that out. Thank you.
Anyway, so back on track. So this is going to kick off a 1 through 3. So when is 2 coming out and when is 3 coming out?
2 is coming out probably the beginning of January, and then 3 will come out like early February. Art is really nice by Guillermo Fajardo. I'm really happy to be working with him. He's doing really good stuff.
I wonder if he'd ever come on a future NCW. I'd love to have one of the interior artists come on to talk a little bit more about how long that process is.
I think he I guess I can't speak for him. That'd be cool if he would. I mean, it's just it's a little time issue, but I'm sure
I'm very sus about this comment, but I'll save that for another time. I did never finish all of The Watcher. Ralph had to give me like keynotes on that, but the movie was really good on Shudder. I think that's the best one. Hopefully Ralph isn't watching this. Hopefully Ralph isn't watching this. Anyway, so Return of the Wicked Witch #1, like we mentioned, is really backed by popular demand because you guys were doing annuals, etc. Is there any way that we're going to see other characters in the storyline besides the ones that we see in Oz? Like, is there going to be a cameo from somebody else specific in our Grimm universe, or are we kind of going to stick to the same characters that we have in this universe?
You mean like Candelas? Or
I meant more like will Robin Hood pop in on a random character? I know Casey's dying to show that. Quick side note before we answer this. So in case you guys don't know, Jason or Candelas, not to be confused with Candelas with a C, Candelas with a K, is made an appearance. And I just asked David if that's supposed to be Casey, because can everyone agree with me that looks like Casey? I think that looks like Casey. 100%. And she's sus in the background. But David, why did you guys write Jason in as a unicorn?
I had Jason in the last book that I wrote also, and I'm kind of enjoying putting him in some character and being able to like surprise the reader, with an unusual way to insert the name Candelas into the story. So I'm going to work toward that in a lot of books that I write. We also have a VIP is going to be appearing in the second issue.
Fun.
I don't know if your question was about that too. No, I mean, right now, I don't think we have plans to, although honestly, like as I've been writing this, I've been thinking about, doing crossing over between the different worlds. Dave did it in his Grimm fairy tales. So I think we're thinking about it, but there's no plans to do it at the moment. Like, gotcha. So Robin Hood probably will not be in Oz too soon, but we could always bring them back to the Earth.
That's true.
Since Dorothy is from Kansas, as we know.
This is just a side note. I just have always thought that Oz has the scariest villains to me, and I think the Wicked Witch continues to be one. Also, quickly noted in the documentary of Cursed Films, they talk about how the woman who played Wicked Witch, she could not get like any roles or anything after the movie because kids were just so terrified of her, and they tried to like bring her on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood to like make her not this scary character as like a person, and people are still terrified of her because she just has that look, man. And fun fact, she got burned on set like really, really bad because she didn't have her stunt double do one of the scenes that had smoke, etc. And she got like 3rd-degree burns.
That sucks.
Yeah, it was pretty serious. And they like it was on her makeup, so they had to like rip off her makeup, which was ripping off her skin. It's pretty horrible. When you watch the documentary, you'll see it all.
I gotta watch that.
Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about our second release today that obviously you weren't involved with as much, but still want some of your feedback, which is Devil's Road, hardcover graphic novel, $24.99 in our web store, written by our own Joe Tyler. So if you guys haven't been following NCW, you don't know that every week I talk essentially about Joe Tyler, this pen name that has been Joe Brusha before. It's been Pat Shand, I believe, and it's been a couple of other people that will never really unveil on NCW. But I'll quick read the synopsis and ask David a couple questions about it. A bus carrying 24 resort guests on the highway of death through Mexico is taken hostage by a ruthless gang. But it's not a ransom that kidnappers are interested in. It's something much more terrifying than anyone could have imagined. This is a story of survival that nightmares are made of. 96 pages. So why did we decide? What?
Could totally be a Shudder movie.
Half of our movies could totally be a Shudder movie. Like, do you ever wish that you just had like billions of dollars to make half of our comics into like indie films? Like, I wish that.
It would be cool.
So why pick this story into becoming a hardcover graphic novel?
I think it's the beginning of a different take. You know, it's more of a gritty, realistic kind of story that doesn't quite fit in our normal comic book or even trade paperback mold. So it definitely was a good first choice for something like this. Ripped from the headlines.
Ripped from the headlines. So when we do something like Devil's Road, how many graphic novels do we plan a year, you know, to publish of our old storylines?
I think right now it's 6 a year. Oh, well, no, I mean, I think we had a plan for more. We have a plan for a lot more, but just because of the world of the paper right now, we're being a little more limiting in the books that we're doing, you know, like just focusing obviously on storylines that we know people will like. So it's kind of a mix, right? Because a lot of the graphic novels we do are just kind of taking our comics and putting them into a form that people read, you know, from bookstores and from other things like that. But then on top of that, Devil's Road is more of an original graphic novel. So we incorporate a couple of those into the year's plans too.
Is this the last graphic novel of the year?
Yeah, because the next one comes out in, wait, there's a Van Helsing one. Did that come out yet? No, there's a Van Helsing one. So you put me on the spot. I could tell you the name of it.
Oh, Van Helsing, Eve of Oblivion.
Yeah, so I think that's the last one of the year, and then early in January is the dark book, Grim Fairy Tales.
Gotcha. Let's talk a little bit about.
I lost the screen for a second. I was trying to find the name of the Van Helsing book. I'm back now.
Eve of Oblivion. Let's talk about a little bit about the rest of the year, and I think I'll probably have you on an NCW before the end of the year. But what are the themes that you're getting of 2023? Like, what are some titles or some genres that Zenescope fans can look forward to?
Oh, all right. Let me say one thing first. The Devil's Road book that comes out, there's another story in there too. Like there's an initial Devil's Road story, but then there's another story in there that basically takes place in the universe of Devil's Road. So it's actually an interesting opportunity that we're just building this world that, you know, is the Devil's Road world that people should check out. Okay, now in answer to your question. Well, we've been making some plans. Well, first of all, you know, we launched the Cthulhu sort of era
Yes.
in the Tales of Terror
Joe loves
Cthulhu book.
Cthulhu, by the
Joe
way.
loves Cthulhu. Dave is like constantly reading like Cthulhu stuff. I have to. He's always like, "Oh, I just read this last night," and I think sometimes his dreams are getting permeated by this Cthulhu stuff. Like, if there was a Shudder movie about Dave reading all this Cthulhu stuff, and I don't know what's going on at home, you know, in his life, but I see him slowly changing, you know,
It's
like
like it's a cross between The Shining and Sinister, but like reading this storyline. So The
yes, yeah, I can
Shining.
see Dave in the dead of night, like watching these old videos of H.P. Lovecraft, and just all this crazy stuff is happening. So the beginning of next year is a lot of like Cthulhu. I'm using the word permeates a lot during this conversation,
I
but
noticed.
Cthulhu permeates a lot of the grim titles we're doing between Joe's work on Robin Hood, um, and Tales of Terror and Grim Fairy Tales and some other. It just kind of pops up. Well, we have a Red Agent book that's coming out in December, a Grim Spotlight Red Agent, which has some Cthulhu elements to it, which spins off into an Agent Phoenix storyline that's coming out next year, the beginning of next year. And then Grim Fairy Tales all the way through the next annual has different facets of Cthulhu happening. So that's definitely a big part of 2023.
Cthulhu.
Yes, the Cthulhu and other like kind of dark stories. I think I like dark and Dave likes dark, and there we are. Also, next month we have the next Myths and Legends quarterly is Blood. Why do I never remember the name? Blood
Blood of the Gods.
Blood of the Gods, right? So we've been building up this Gretel storyline where Gretel, like we had the crossover with Van Helsing in the annual with Mother Margaret, who's like this very powerful witch. So we follow Gretel and Calabar and end up in Mexico and connect up with Hellchild in like a cool story. So then after that, Gretel will be getting a series of books on her own as she kind of goes on the trail of Mother Margaret. So and I'm writing that one, so I'm really excited about that one. And then
That
at the
she's
same,
another character people want more of, so that's
I
pretty
know I
exciting.
personally want more of. I know that Casey wants more of too. I don't know why I'm pointing that way. Like
And
Casey,
Chris
yeah.
Sampson, if Chris Sampson was listening, he loves Gretel. Gretel was his favorite character.
Oh, good. And then we have a lot planned for Van Helsing, working with Pat on Van Helsing, and we've been doing a whole bunch of stories about how she's following, like we've been uncovering stuff about her dad and his journals and all these nefarious things that he was doing in search of trying to fight Dracula, but along the way he created a whole bunch of other creatures that he unleashed on the world. And we finally culminate that storyline in the Van Helsing annual, which is in the beginning of next year, I think March maybe. And that's gonna be fun too.
I have a lot of, you're going to be writing Oz and Gretel storyline. I got Dave, obviously, ongoing doing Grim Fairy Tales and Belle. Joe helping a lot with the Cthulhu that's happening. Pat working a lot of Van Helsing. Is there any other writers that you want to tease that are taking on other storylines?
All right. Well, working on the Red stuff, on the Red Agent and Agent Phoenix next year, we have Chaz Pangburn, who was our editor on Possessive. Yeah.
Maybe. The name sounds familiar.
He when I always Possessive was the name of it. Yeah, he was our editor on that. He also letters the book. He actually worked on our Iron Maiden book that came out a few months ago.
Yep.
And Dave and I are really liking his stuff. And also there's a woman who we discovered in New York last year during the pitch tank called Honor Vincent.
Oh, yes.
Who wrote a story in the Tales of Terror Back to School. She's writing a whole Tales of Terror issue for the holiday book is hers. And she doesn't know this yet, but we have some other plans for her that are going to come up soon after that. But she's doing a really good job too. So yeah, she's definitely one that I want to keep working with. And obviously some of the people that we have been working with, you know, we want to keep working with.
What about Joe Tyler?
Joe Tyler is underrated.
Will I ever get another storyline penned by Joe Tyler? Can you just write one and say it's by Joe Tyler? Now I'm like on a secret mission.
No, I would probably have a Candelas in the name, but I'd say Joe Tyler, the odds are good that Joe Tyler will continue writing in 2023 and beyond.
2023 and beyond. I also didn't hear Ralph's name in anything. What is Ralph writing? If not, I guess anything.
Ralph is writing an Inferno story that's going to be coming out early next year. It's really good. It's just starting now.
So here's the 2023 lineup by David Wall, who I'm sure I'll have on the show in a couple more weeks to dive a little bit more into 2023 and preview a little bit more of our stuff. But as always, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Any last things that we should know about the Wicked Witch storyline or anything else?
Yeah. Is there? Let's see. No, I think it's just good. I like the Mombi character, and it's a lot. Just know that it's based in a lot of real Oz stuff. Like in the real Oz book, Mombi used this powder of life and created her version of Jack Pumpkinhead. And in our book, in Oz #1, you'll see. Do you see it on the? Yeah, you see it on the last page. We have our Jack Pumpkinhead in there in honor of Halloween, and he's very cool. And it's a fun book. I hope people check it out.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much, David. I'll have you on really soon.
Thank you.
Well, again, today we talked about 2 of our newest releases. Like I mentioned before, our graphic novel hardcover release, as well as our own. There we go. Devil's Road in the side. There we go. Let's talk a little bit about the Kickstarter, too, that this was really involved in. We do Kickstarters all the time, and many of our Kickstarter stories, we publish later on, et cetera, so other fans can have access to them. So I believe this was a part of our Kickstarter, et cetera. So $24.99, written by our own Joe Tyler. If you don't know who Joe Tyler is, watch my past NCWs. You'll hear all about Joe Tyler. I talk a lot about the conspiracy theories around Joe Tyler. Should we have a documentary just about Joe Tyler? Should we make a mockumentary about it? I don't know. Our other release today was Oz. Yes, Oz, Return of the Wicked Witch, number 1, which is $5.99 in our web store, which kicks off a mini series that we're doing because our fans love Oz so much. So this is going to be number 1 of 3, written by our own David Wall. So we'll have him back on very, very soon. Next week's release, and don't 100% quote me on any of this stuff, but let's say that it's the 2022 Grimm Fairy Tales Holiday Pinup Special. If you guys weren't here a couple of weeks ago, I had Dave on to talk about, Casey's showing it to me in the background. Great cover right here. So it will be next week. Wonderful, because we have it in office. But we did talk about the Halloween pinup special, or horror pinup special, that came up just a couple weeks ago. If you guys are unfamiliar with that, basically we include about 20 plus different types of covers, some old, some new, of the theme around this. So this week's theme will be the holiday pinup. Like I mentioned before, there'll be 4 pinups that we do this year and 4 pinups that we do next year. So this is the ending of our holiday pinup. So make sure that you get that cover. I'm sure maybe I'll have Dave on, or I'll try to ask one of the artists if they could pop on. Our latest NCW collectible cover. So every month we have a new one. We've hit the month of November, so we should be unveiling our brand new NCW collectible cover. There we go. It's our own Red Agent, who we talked a little bit about. Like David mentioned, we'll be diving a little bit more into the Red Agent story by our own writer, Chaz, who will be diving a little bit more into her character. But this week's winner of our first NCW, November collectible cover, which will be a showcase version of the cover. Oh, Casey's showing me in the background. Oh, am I still
They'll get October, but okay, you can buy November.
Is this still October? So this past week's winner will be from this week, which was Edward. Congratulations, Edward. Lots of confetti for you. You will get October's showcase cover, which was the really hot carries cover that we had before. The winner of this week's stipulation that will be announced next Wednesday will get the Red Agent cover that we just showed you right now. So my producer in the background giving me the face like, Amber, how do you not know this? My bad. Look, Casey, I don't know if you know this, but I'm currently in mornings, so just cut me some break here. Okay, thank you. This week's stipulation: if you grabbed anything at our retailer live stream, which was yesterday, you're entered to win. If you didn't watch our retailer live stream, you should go back and watch it, because number 1, the store Wonderland was amazing, and they had so much stuff. They're based in Connecticut. A lot of Magic the Gathering stuff, and they had a lot of Bandai, etc. So if you want to hear more about that. Or if you would like to see a funeral procession take place for Steve Nash's coaching career, you can also fast forward and just see that of me coming on, say a few words about Steve Nash. The team had me dying yesterday. I was laughing at what they did. And it's why I love them so much, because that was very thoughtful. It was very funny. I first heard from Jason about Steve Nash. Then I heard from Casey about Steve Nash. Then I heard from Noah, who doesn't even care about sports, about Steve Nash. And then I heard from Joe. And I think Joe has been secretly waiting to send that text, because every so often I'll like see Joe and Joe will be like, Nash is still that coach, huh? And I think he's just like, he had that scheduled. So some other virtual events that are taking place. So our next movie club is going to be Jennifer's Body. It's going to be happening in about 2 or 3 weeks. And the regular movie club crew will be in attendance. We also announced today, if you're a part of our VIP group, you saw that our next VCon is our Fall Fest. Fall Fest is really just a one-day event. It's 3 hours. And basically, you know, we premiere new collectible comics, but it's just one day, because we know that after you spend all that money on Fall Fest, Cyber Monday / Black Friday is just like a week later. And so it's gonna be a good month for getting deals on Zenescope books, which I know you guys are excited about. Like I mentioned, Coffee with Casey and Noah is every Monday at 1 p.m. And then we'll be going into full holiday stories. So I'm sure there's a lot more to come of different events that will be taking place before the end of the year that we're already here. And every Wednesday, you can always join me on NCW. So that's pretty much it. This was NCW. Oh, we tried to buy something on the retailer live stream, but didn't make the cut. Are we still eligible for the NCW drop next week? Well, I guess if you didn't buy the retailer, you're not. But if you did, you know, Robert, I know you. You're bound to win one very soon. I believe in you. But you can only win one. So if you already won, you won. I don't know if Robert won. Did he? Oh. Well, don't worry. We're hitting up on the year next week anyway. Or not next week, in like 2 months. So we're getting there. But that was it for NCW every week at Wednesday. As always, make sure you tune in every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Where here at Zenescope, you come for the covers, but you stay for the stories. I will see everybody next week at 3 p.m. Goodbye, everybody.